the recording, and I'm going to welcome you to the webinar, and I'm going to turn it over to Paul Buchel, who's going to start the presentation. Go ahead, Paul.
All right, thanks, Gary. Again, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Paul Buchel with MaxRecall Technologies. I've also got David Hendrickson with us today. And what we're going to do is kind of talk through document-based business process automation, what it can do for you, and based on our experience, how you can avoid some of the obstacles that can get in your way when you start looking at making some changes, and avoid those obstacles to help set yourself up for success, so that you ensure a successful implementation and adoption throughout the organization. So just to kind of start out, we're based in Atlanta, Georgia, where we started in 1999. Our focus is on document-based business process automation. We've got a variety of solutions that we use depending on what the particular application is that we're trying to automate or enhance that we can talk to you about as we go through this. And we are going to talk today again about our experience in the document automation business and how some of the lessons we've learned to make it a much easier and successful implementation. So just to kind of start out, our customers come to us for a lot of different reasons. One of the biggest reasons they come to us is just to improve access to information, right? They want to be able to get answers. So when a customer calls and has a question, instead of being put on hold, so the customer service rep can run back to a filing cabinet and find information, or even having to call them back. We have solutions that let you get to those answers right away, so that not only are you not holding up your customer, but you're not missing other opportunities. You can respond very quickly and easily and move on to more productive tasks. They come to us to help them resolve issues. So if someone has an invoice and they're questioning whether or not they actually received it, you can give them respond with a proof of delivery immediately and get that to them. If you're working on vendor or supplier invoices and you have an issue with the three-way match, right, we have all the answers you need right away available to you, so that you can resolve that and make sure you earn those discounts that are so important. And it just helps you. We can help you avoid issues too by capturing all of the documents associated with the transaction. We build that history so that everything you need is there, and you can validate that you have all of the documentation you need for a particular transaction. They also come to us and want to reduce their costs. A big part of that is labor. When you look at the amount of time you spend shuffling paper, it adds up very quickly. With our solutions, you index it one time and you're done, and then it's available whenever you need it, as quickly as you need it. We also help reduce errors. So with our automation solutions, we eliminate as much of the data entry as possible, and we also validate that data prior to actually passing it off into your ERP. So the idea there is to reduce those errors, get it in there quickly, and move on to the next task on your list. And they also want us to help them reduce overhead. And that overhead is, if you just think of the amount of paper, filing cabinets, and the space that you have to keep those filing cabinets in, it's expensive to do that. And we also help our customers scale for growth, which is really important to a lot of our customers. So as they grow, rather than having to spend a lot of time training new employees, we make processes more efficient so that those employees can handle additional growth without becoming overwhelmed. And a lot of our solutions are based on dealing with exception transactions rather than those routine transactions that should just be able to process without you having to go through it step by step. So again, by not only increasing efficiencies and coming up with exception-based processes to manage routine transactions, it lets you grow without having to add a bunch of additional personnel to do that. So again, we've been doing this for a long time, and based on our experience, we know how to set you up so that you have a successful transition to document-based business process automations. So we help you prepare and plan to avoid the obstacles that can get in your way to help ensure success. And with that, David's going to talk for a few minutes about what some of those obstacles are and then how we can avoid them.
Thanks, Paul. Good afternoon. David Hendrickson here. Not from Georgia. You can tell the difference in the accent right away, but I am here. So as Paul mentioned, we've been doing this a while, and a lot of us have been working in various technologies for many years. And we've identified attributes or characteristics or traits within companies that allow us to predict where we might run into issues or who might be successful. And what we really want to try to do is identify the obstacles that are going to get in your way early so they can be dealt with. And I refer to those as adoption or implementation pain points. And if you think about it for a little while, you realize that really those pain points are rooted in what I call incomplete pictures of what's really happening within your organization, within your process. We need to think about three related areas, and that's the people, the processes those people should be executing, and the enabling technologies that are helping the people execute those processes, managing data and workflow. And so where we run into implementation pain points is we take a look at the strategy and objectives of the organization. Are the folks in the organization aware of the strategies and objectives? Are your stakeholders and users sharing those objectives, and do they buy in and do they have ownership for them? Another key area is really an accurate, what I'll call as-is state. Do you have your processes documented, and are they followed by all? In many cases, there are false assumptions or false positives that things are documented, but there are things that are going on that aren't necessarily visible. So the third area is really silos of information. And what I mean by that is that there's expertise or within the people, or there's data within enabling technology, or there's skill or knowledge existing elsewhere in the organization that isn't really part of the system. If you think about business rules, are they well documented and are they understood? Tribal knowledge is another phrase that can capture some of those things that can get in the way of successful implementation or user adoption. So let's break down each one of those three areas. We'll first talk about how people are impacted by the other two. So in an implementation, we do technology, and our technology is based on automation. And so depending on how things have been communicated, there can be a fear factor for our customer and the users because our technology automates stuff that they're doing. And we need to make sure that we recognize that. Enabling people are also impacted by enabling technology because they can avoid things. They don't necessarily want to buy into it. They may not necessarily have the skills of what's required for new technology. Another area is trust. They are used to doing things one way. Do they trust that data is happening or workflow is happening the way things should be? And then another big factor is just how involved in the technology deployment are the folks. What we don't want to do is go through most of the implementation, show up at training, and have people in the training session this is the first time they've heard that this technology is showing up. So people impacted by processes. Within your organization, the level of documentation will impact how well the people can embrace the new technologies or the new tools. How well established are your standards for performance, and do you have visibility to them? And what those two bullets really resonate with is accountability. Are people allowed to get away with not doing things the way that we should be doing them? The level of training. So I have training on one side and skill on the other. They're different. You can run people through training, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they've developed skill. And then the last bullet on the process side is people's ability to influence the processes they're expected to work. Some situations you don't really have the ability to have people influence those processes. They just have to do it for compliance or regulatory reasons. Other processes, to assist with buy-in, sometimes it's healthy to have them involved and allow them to influence their future. So, so that's people enabling technologies and processes impacts. Let's switch to what are we talking about when we're looking at process change. Well, the process changes can be impacted by people. So how well are the roles and responsibilities defined? If they're not defined well, chances are the processes aren't going to perform well. Do we have metrics, and are people held accountable to those metrics? Another area is tribal knowledge. I mentioned at the beginning, are your processes documented and followed by all? If tribal knowledge is prevalent in your organization, processes typically suffer. Another one is preferences versus possibilities. So what do the people like to do versus what should they be doing? I've worked in client systems where there were people that really liked to file paper, and they didn't want to change. And those people that didn't want to change were enabled, and so the paper stuck around. So things happen, strange. Also, the end-to-end thinking. What I mean by that is, in a process, we're doing activities, and in order for me to do my step, the person that gave me the work above or upstream in the process needed to make sure that they did the work completely and correctly so that I could do my job. And then I need to recognize that there's somebody else after me that needs me to do my job correctly and accurately so that they can complete it successfully. That process definition and visibility is critical for new adoption and success. Processes are enabled by impacted by enabling technologies. Rarely will a technology be able to handle all the requirements, so there are always a few gaps, and then you got to come up with the workarounds. So depending on the degree of the gap and the complexity of the workaround, your processes can be impacted. Change management, and what I mean by that is when your technologies or settings are configured, the processes are documented, people are trained. When you introduce a new change into that technology, are the people in the processes set up to manage that? A key piece for enabling technologies and supporting processes is the infrastructure performance. Do you have the hardware and the network to be able to manage or successfully the load and the transactions that are necessary for the technology to be successful? The stability and the reliability of your enabling technologies. Again, this is network and servers, and do they perform? The last area would be enabling technology security. So how well are you administering the data and the content so that we don't have to create processes to shore up holes and risks in those areas? So that's processes impacted by the people enabling technologies. The last look at this would be how are enabling technologies impacted by processes and people. So going through a technology deployment, it's about identifying what does the business need and then getting the software and the hardware configured to meet those needs. So from a process perspective, we need to make sure that we've got our requirements identified and they're properly prioritized so that we can deliver benefit and ROI sooner than later. And the next bullet there, that 80-20 exception management, weaves into this, and that is recognizing that you can spend an awful lot of time and resources working through all possibilities and never receive or realize the benefit when you're going down a happy path, or the 80% of the time things are going to work great. So recognizing that sometimes exceptions need to be handled with workarounds, not everything can be automated. Your data governance for the technologies we deploy, Paul mentioned that we do validation and verification. And if your source data in ERP or other systems we're interfacing with is not being managed, and you're not setting up cross-references, or your data is incomplete, that's going to impact the technology's ability to automate. Your processes of administration. Raymond Brooks, our CEO, has a phrase about making sure that we don't have too many cooks in the kitchen. You've got to control who is doing what with your enabling technologies so that you have baseline configurations and that we have predictable results. Otherwise, we get unpredictable events. Planning and risk management. The enabling technologies are running on infrastructure. Make sure that you've got good business continuity strategies in place. You have DR or backups that are reliable, tested, and current. A disaster recovery event is a real one, is not the place to test your ability to hit a red button and restore everything. You need to be doing that regularly and in advance. So enabling technologies are impacted by people. We mentioned business process or business ownership. We need to make sure that we've got the right people aware of what the technologies can do, what it's supposed to do, what it won't do, and help to manage the rest of the folks that are executing or using the tools. The user sitting in front of the user interface, running the keyboard and the mouse, are they excited about, or are they prepared to use the tools, which is really skills? Do they have what they need in order to be able to successfully use the technology? The heart of the people, or the minds, are your folks aware of what your objectives are, and are they aligned to the strategies that the technology has been deployed to achieve? If we have misalignment, people can drag their feet, they can derail, they can sabotage, which has happened in past implementations. So we need to be aware of those risks. And then also making sure that the people are prepared and change ready. So new technologies are change, and different people respond to change differently. We've got to make sure that the meat issues for each one of the users is identified, and they're in a good place, and they are in a position to see what is possible and the benefits that the new technologies are going to afford them. That's critical going forward. So those are the three key pieces and how they all interact and potentially impact your ability to be successful. So Paul, if you go to the next slide. So at MaxRecall, we have some strategies to help you avoid hitting those obstacles. And the first is what we call our document-based business process review. And this would be our opportunity to engage with your team to identify the business processes that you're thinking about automating, and we would go into a deep dive mode, staple ourselves to your documents, and run through your current processes and evaluate where things are at. We recognize that you have suspect areas for improvement. We would work to validate those, and we'd also look to identify other possibilities along the way. We'd help you clarify and really define what your objectives are, help you prioritize those initiatives, and put together a communication plan that would allow people to buy in. So that's one of the strategies that we have in play. The other strategy, if we get a chance to implement technology with you, and we're working together on a project, we have a business process assessment or business process review process that we run through at the beginning of every project to make sure that we recognize and point out the dependencies between the people, the processes, and the technology. We walk through at a strategic level, at a functional overview level, and then at a detailed process level, the things that we have encountered in the past so that we can help anticipate glitches and put together plans or actions to keep us from hitting those obstacles. We need to, when we identify issues, we run at those issues, we need to address them sooner than later. We work on focusing on the 80-20. Again, we want to get value and ROI into your organization as soon as possible. By implementing the automation technologies, you'll have more time to work on the exceptions, and we'll be spending less time working on the standard stuff. The other thing that we do then with our customer success program is we will be managing communications and change on a weekly basis through the life cycle of the project and post-training. So I just flew through that stuff really quick. So that's all I have for that. So Paul's going to now transition and give you a couple of examples of how we've helped.
So again, you know, the reason, there's a variety of reasons folks come to us to begin with, but you know, one of the biggest ones is just being able to get answers. And this, I think, I mean, is really kind of the key to the whole thing right here, is the ability to respond to a customer in 3 to 4 minutes rather than 45 minutes. So, you know, this is a perfect example of being able to get an answer. And again, think too about, you know, the 45 minutes it used to take, all the missed opportunities that are happening while you're researching this. In this case, you know, if someone bought a, you know, a custom-built pump 7 or 8 years ago and need to replace it, you know, how long does it take you to track it down, respond to them so that you know what it is you need to get back on order and get to them. So anyway, all the information's in there. With one quick, easy search, boom, it's right there. We also help to reduce costs. So we've had customers tell us that, hey, you know, I've been able to reduce my costs. Consequently, I can reduce and I can be more competitive when I'm bidding on projects and orders. So it really is, you know, a huge factor in being able to not only respond to your customers, but to be able to help them close deals by giving them more competitive pricing. And you know, just it is all right there. And this, what I'm showing you here too, this is a section out of an ROI calculator we use ahead of time to help folks figure out, you know, what the return on their investment is going to be. But as you can see here, it helps reduce your costs, ultimately making you more competitive in the market and be able to win more business. We also help scale for growth. This is one that, I mean, this one really, you know, caught my attention. But if you look at this quote from one of our customers, they almost doubled their business in 3.5 years without having to increase staff. Why? Because we've automated the process. So as documents come through our Max Capture solution, right, we're able to recognize who sent them, we extract the information we need, we pass that off to the ERP and push the documents into MaxRecall. So by being able to automate those routine transactions, those 80%, right, that we shouldn't have to deal with, right, that gives you time to focus on more important things, and it gives you the ability to grow, again, without having to, you know, bring in and train a bunch of additional staff to do that. So, you know, you can grow much quicker as a result. And just being able to, you know, automate, for an example would be routing invoices for approvals, right? Instead of having to email stuff or fax stuff back and forth to branches, having it all in one place and having the ability to query on documents based on a status allows you to move those documents through the process much faster, much more efficiently, so that you can get on to more important revenue generating activities. And then here's our little plug for Tug here. It is an awesome event for those of you who have been before. We will be there this year. We're going to be doing 2 demos. One is going to be demonstrating our accounts payable expense invoice approval routing capabilities. It's a 3-tiered process, so you can build up to 3 tiers of approvals. We're also going to talk about the MaxRecall and MaxCapture product advancements and the directions. So we'll have 2 different sponsor demos for that. We're also presenting 2 different case studies. One is related to the accounts payable invoice automation project with Kenny Pipe and Supply using both MaxRecall and MaxCapture. We'll show you, step you through how that went, what some of the lessons learned were, and then how well it's going today. And we're also going to do a case study based on a document-based business process review we did with Turner Supply, where we had someone go in and review what they're doing today and look at better ways to do things utilizing our business process automation solutions. So I really would encourage you to attend those sessions where we'll be showing, product and different solutions. And we'll certainly be at our booths if you guys want to take a closer look at some of the actual applications itself. We'll be able to do demos for you at the booth while you're there. So just again, we want to thank you guys for taking the time this afternoon to step through this with us. Gary, are there questions that you want to run through?
I don't see any questions right now. Now would be a good time to type them in if anybody has one, and you can also raise your hand if you want, and I can unmute you if you want to participate in a conversation. So we can give it another couple of seconds here and see if anything pops up. Otherwise, it might just be happy hour. I'm not sure. Oh yeah, it's only 2:30. Never mind.
So we hit our target timeline.
Yes, you did. Yeah. And I don't see any questions, so I guess we can call it a day.
Again, if you do have questions after the fact, our contact information's up there. Feel free to contact us with any questions that you think of, after you spent the weekend, contemplating this presentation.
You know what? A question popped up. What features does MaxRecall have over Unform 9?
Well, I think the automated, the way we automatically connect the different documents and link them together as they come into the system is a huge one. So regardless of how and when documents come in based on common keywords, we automatically link them together so that when you're doing a search for a particular sales order number, for example, you can launch every document related to that transaction directly, either using one of the MaxRecall retrieval applications or directly out of your ERP as well. The storage is very different. Ours is much more efficient way to store documents. We're utilizing a SQL database to store the various keywords and index information. Documents themselves can be stored either on the same server or on any kind of network attached storage device. So the architecture is much more flexible in the way you set it up. And of course, the MaxCapture solution is very, very different from that as well. It allows you to actually extract data from documents and process that as essentially an EDI transaction to automate the data entry. Did that help?
It helped me.
Okay.
Yep. I think it's good. And I don't see any other questions, so we can wrap it up.
Gary, thank you for organizing this.
Okay. Thank you all. Have a great day, everybody. Take care now. Happy Friday.